Two Pints in a Corner is a music history podcast about the Channel Club in Boston, Mass. Dinky Dawson and Tony Raine are your hosts. They interview channel performers and workers, bringing out stories and memories of the great music and events that came through this iconic South Boston venue.
So are we, as they say, are we rolling, Bob?
We're rolling, Bob.
We're rolling, Bob. Welcome to Two Pints in the Corner, David Bieber, the man.
Okay, very good. I'm happy to be with you, and let it roll.
Well, we're rolling away. The first question is about the channel, of course, because that's what we're really here to talk about. When did you go for the first time, and what show did you really like when you first went there?
Oh man, there are so many shows that I went to. I mean, I currently I have the David Bieber Archives, which is at the Norwood Space Center, and I have about 10,000 square feet of artifacts and collectibles and toys and treasures, and among the things that I have are many channel items. Back in the 80s, when the channel first came around, I was the creative services director at WBCN, and from the very beginning of the channel, we work closely as far as promoting shows. You know, obviously BCN was a powerhouse, kind of progressive rock, but that was a very loose term. AOR, album-oriented rock station. We touched all the bases of music, and it made it perfect for the channel in terms of cross-promoting, because so many of the acts, probably 90% of the acts that were playing at the channel, we played on the air at WBCN. So I was working with people like, David Alexander and Warren Scott, David Mars, and certainly Harry and Peter Boris. It was kind of one hand washing the other, that the more airplay that we gave for the acts, and it was more likely that the channel would be booking those acts, so that we would give attention to the music and they would present live the music. And along the way, we would do promotions, we would do ticket giveaways, we would, a lot of the BCN DJs were actually spinning, at the channel. People who are still active, Alberto, who's at WUMB, Carter Allen, who's at WZLX, Tammy Heidi, who's out in Los Angeles. She's still out there on the air. It was just, 1 and 1 equal 3 in terms of our involvement and what we made happen. I don't think I can exactly pinpoint the first show that I went to, but I can think about so many wonderful shows that I saw.
Well, let's talk about them. Talk about a story or two that you got from those memorable shows. Oh,
man. Well, probably the summit of remembrances and of shows that, it's the mental positive baggage that I carry with me, and every now and then I'll hear a song of his and it'll take me back to that Thursday night in December of 1988 when I saw Roy Orbison.
I was there.
Me too.
I think the Roy Orbison show at the channel is probably the equivalent of U2 at the Paradise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
The number of people who were actually in the club, by a factor of 10 would be the number of people who claim to have been there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there were, 1,500, 1,700 people there to see Roy Orbison, there's probably 20,000 people who claim that they were there that night.
Well,
I think it was actually 2 nights, but
2 nights,
be that as it may.
That was a Frank Russo show, too. Frank Russo.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I know that I know, and it's interesting you bring that up because it was a very competitive environment in terms of, not only, concert productions, from all the way from the Orpheum up to the Boston Garden, but, on a club level, the competitive nature between Don Law and Frank J. Russo and even the late, great Morris Levy, who had a company, he owned...
Wow. Strawberries Records.
Yeah, Strawberries Retail. Yeah, but he also had a company after Strawberries started expanding many retail record locations. He also created a company called Straw Boss, and Straw Boss was the concert. Yeah, so that was the concert presentation arm of Morris's empire. He also had Roulette Records and Big Seven Publishing, and he was quite a character. I had a lot of positive encounters with him during the WBCN days. He's no longer with us. Some would say the world is better for that. I would question
And there
that.
were people who really believed that he really wasn't in that casket. That's the other issue with him.
That he was what?
Not in the casket when they buried his casket.
Oh, well, to this day, people rumor that he's still
living in Australia.
In Australia, I hear.
Yeah, a kangaroo farmer in Australia.
Yes, you got it. I could just see that, too.
It's funny, but I actually stage managed Roy every time he came in to play for Al Goldman from Jonathan Swift's, because Al and I shared office space in Harvard Square. And that night, I was with my girlfriend, Nance Greenspan, at the time, and we're like, okay, should we go backstage and just say hi? And she was like, no, I'm really tired, and then that was the last time we ever saw her,
Well, I guess I was, occupying your space and your oxygen because I did go backstage or, after the show with a kind of very informal meet and greet. And I was with Janice Timonis and Jim Sullivan. And, it was just, they often say, don't meet your heroes, you'll be disappointed.
Not with this guy.
This was not the case.
No, not at all.
Way, yeah.
You're so right.
He was such, a warm and wonderful talent on stage. All the power and the strength and the beauty of his voice. I mean, a gift from the heavens, absolutely.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm sorry, not to interrupt you.
But just to be in his presence and somebody that I grew up with, hearing songs, It's Over, the beauty and the tragedy. There was such an echo and mirror of his own personal life in so many of his songs. But it was so wonderful to be in his presence when he was in a period of renaissance and renewal, and the adulation and the warm give and take, between him and the audience, between him and the people.
That was what I liked. That was exactly what I liked.
The funny thing about him is that the first show he really did in Boston after his heart surgery was he did a benefit for Ronald Reagan, and the first paid show he did was at Jonathan Swift's. And,
no kidding.
And Al Goldman and I was sharing space, and Al comes up to me and goes, I'm screwed. Yeah, I got 2 sold-out shows, and he's leaving. He won't play. I said, what do you mean? He's not even here yet. I mean, I just got a call. He's at the motel, sitting in the lobby, waiting for someone to pick him up. And Al goes, his brother's down there. He's his tour manager, and he's pulling out. You got to go do something. So I said, oh, crap. So I walk across the street. I get downstairs. I introduce myself. They're packing their gear up. And I'm sitting down with this guy going, look, this is how this is going to work. You don't tell me how it's going to work. This guy had been a deputy. His brother was a deputy sheriff. So he wasn't one to So I finally explained to him what Al had planned for him. That we were going to do Swift's, Then we were going to step up and do a bigger venue. Then we were going to step, And he said, "Okay, we'll do it." And that evening, when Orbison showed up, he and I think it was Jim Sullivan or Ted Drosowski did an interview, and Orbison sat at my desk in my office doing the interview. This is a guy who just had heart surgery, and his chest was open from his neck to his waist. And I went into my office after the 45 or 50-minute interview, and it was like a smoke bomb went off. And there was a pile of cigarette butts that I just absolutely could not believe that he was still smoking after all of this.
Wow. Well, if I had been there, I probably would have, found a little, plastic bag and put all those cigarette butts in there, and I'd have some of Roy's DNA today.
That's a collector.
But seeing something like that reminds me of. You may remember John Phillips from the Mamas and Papas.
I love
and
that.
he had a very turbulent life, consuming a lot of illicit and illicit drugs and liquids. And he had a kidney transplant and was supposed to be living a clean and sober life. And in one of these famous gotcha moments where he wound up on the cover of, the front page of National Enquirer, he was seen exiting a liquor store with a big brown bag with some glass contents in it. So, yeah, sometimes even when you go to the brink, it's hard to step back, and sometimes, sadly, you go over. But yeah, that was such a memorable night. But there were so many. I mean, the beauty of the channel was the diversity. I can remember David Alexander, who was doing marketing and promotion for the club. And, he was hitting me up with all these new and upcoming shows. And one of the ones that the channel was so excited about was King Sunny A Day.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, that was, it was kind of the beginning period of world music. And the channel was never steered away from, taking a chance or bringing a unique and an unusual performer in, very supportive as well of so many local bands. And it's fascinating that here we are, in some respects, 40 plus years on, as far as, I think the channel as we knew it kind of ended in the early 90s, but throughout the 1980s, when you look back, 2025, we're in some instances 40, 45 years ago. But so many of the, especially local performers as well as national, I keep running into not only performing but as lifelong friends. I was just down Chuck White, who works with me at the archives. He did a Outsider Art Festival in Provincetown this past weekend in May. It was actually Thursday through Sunday, and I among the people I ran into were Springer from SSD Control. I just went to a, dare I say it, 80th birthday party at the Brighton Music Hall for Rick Berlin, who was in Orchestra Luna and Berlin Airlift and Luna and so forth. And, among the people who were playing in celebration of his birthday, Laurie Sargent from Face to Face, and Willie Alexander, the absolute godfather of Boston punk music. Adam Sherman from Private Lightning.
Yeah.
So these are all, local bands that played at the channel. I think back about all the others, Gangrene, members of that band. They've been up to the archives to visit, seeing, reunions periodically of members of Human Sexual Response, and the Fools are still out there playing, and members of the Atlantics, and of course I kind of remember, Amy Mann before she kind of really, really hit it big. She was in the Young Snakes. Till Tuesday became the hit group, but everybody started somewhere, and she started. I think she may have even been working with Tammy Heidi at the original Newbury Comics on Newbury Street.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, so there were just so many people from back then who are still, making music with a passion and haven't given up the ghost even today. So I like to be involved with people who are still active, and the channel was a springboard for so many people.
There you go.
Both on a local level, national, and international level.
The one thing. Sorry, Dave.
Go ahead.
I was just going to interrupt you for 1 second. And you were talking about world music. That was something that Don Law would not touch. They went out and found genres of music that appealed to a lot of people that Don's office just really had no interest in.
World music being one, reggae being another, which is world music. Anything from South America was a tough number. It was like, okay, We'll play it on at the Orpheum, but we won't because it's we don't do it, and we did it. We were very proud of it. We had the right people in the right place with Kevin McVan as the Black Star Liner, and we're actually writing a book right now, Kevin and I. It's called I forgot what we Mystic Nights at the 4 Point Channel. And it's all about the world music in the 80s, because if you really look, the channel, Strawboss, and those people were the only ones that promoted all the big boys. Look at the Castle, for instance, when they got not Bob Marley, but the other guy that was in there with them, Peter Tosh. And Peter Tosh, that's a fun thing and stuff. But let me go back something. When you start talking about the archives that you're in up in Norwell, I want Norwood. I just want Peter to tell you the story about that particular building, because here he goes.
Once Dinky, I said that you were going to be on the show. I said to him, I could throw a baseball from my parents' front yard into that area that you're in.
No kidding.
I grew up in Norwood. And, of course, back then, it was an operating chemical and whatever. And, the cops kept trying to throw us out. That was just the play area. There was a lot of space, and nobody seemed to bother you. But finally, the cops just said, the next time we see any of you kids here again, we're going to just take you home, and we're going to threaten you. We're going to arrest you. He said, this is a very bad area for kids to be hanging around in, given all the industrial chemicals and stuff that were around back in those days. And
wow.
It was funny in that you look at what it looks like now.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And it's unbelievable.
Yeah, you did a great job yourselves.
Taken from somebody who, for most of my childhood, hung around there, goofing off, and just, it was weird. And then when I heard that's where you guys were going, I was like, wow, I got to go see this for myself.
Well, the door is open. I will put on my tour guide hat. I will wave the $1.99 VIP card, and
sounds like a channel.
I would, I'm sure some of your DNA is on a lot of the artifacts.
I'm sure it is somewhere.
Yeah.
How many channel posters you got? How many channel posters?
It was funny that you asked that question because this is kind of the channel lives anecdote here. About I'd say maybe 6 weeks, 2 months ago, I got a call from a woman named Laura Voigt Hendricks, and she works at Arnold International, which is a major worldwide advertising and marketing company. For better or worse, if you love or hate Flo, the character who was on all the Progressive insurance ads, that's one of their clients and one of their creations.
Wow.
But, they're a world-class organization, wonderful people to work with. I got a call based on, I guess my reputation precedes me with the archives, and it was a cold call saying, and this was on a Friday, so she called and said, we just moved into this building, the world headquarters of Arnold, and we are at, I believe the address is 6 Necco Street.
I got an email from her.
Yeah, and she said, as we settle into our new quarters, we have a major conference room, and we have a very significant client that's coming in, and what we would like to do is dress the conference room in memory and tribute to the channel, which was, the channel was right there. Peter, when you talk about a stone's throw away from where you were in Norwood to where I am, same thing with Arnold's location. Stone's throw away from the channel, and they wanted to dress the conference room for this important client with nothing but channel artifacts. Of course, the challenge here was that you called on a Friday afternoon, and the presentation was on the following Thursday. So I really, did a deep dive and had Chuck White and Joe Packard and Lance Salemo, who all work with me, get involved in pulling all these disparate channel pieces of memorabilia and artifacts and, ticket stubs and posters and flyers and invitations to the second anniversary of the channel and ads that were in Boston Rock and, schedules that were in The Noise and, all these great publications, certainly full-page ads that were in the Boston Phoenix, where I later worked. And it was just, it really activated me. It kind of showed that, yes, we can turn something around with, because basically they had to frame everything. I kind of just brought the artifacts in. So, I got the call on Friday, gave them the channel artifacts on, I think it was the following Monday or Tuesday, and we were off to the races, and it really worked out well. But it also just, once again, coalesced so many channel memories just looking at all of these things.
Lights all those fires, man.
Do it?
It lights all those fires and memories.
Well, speaking of lighting fires, among the things that I've discovered in my channel collection now, there were channel matches.
I got them too. I got a whole box. I got a box full of them.
Did you guys save a lot of things from those days?
I have everything. I have got every. I printed it, as you know, at the archives there at the Phoenix, every single advert that was done from 1980 through to 1992. That was.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I printed.
Wow.
I used about, 2 boxes of paper on the big level, and I was in there for 2 years, every other day with Kevin McVan doing that. Not Kevin McVan, Kevin Allman. What am I talking about? Black Star Line. He used to come in with me and would go through every book and everything. So I've got all those still because I used that for the database I've used in for the website. So it's 99% together, the database, but there's a few odd shows here and there, special shows that were not advertised in the Phoenix and stuff that I don't have any other information of and that kind of stuff. But other than that, I got enough stuff on memorabilia. I've got towels. In fact, I'm wearing an old channel T-shirt right now from them days.
It hasn't been washed yet either, I can tell you.
No, it's not been.
That's what makes it really valid and important.
Hey, come on, David.
We don't want anything to be antiseptic,
No, yeah, listen, David. I had from Fillmore West a shirt that has got holes in it, joint holes, all kinds of stuff in it, a smelly thing. I sold that for over $900.
Wow. I think that it's the authenticity, and that's the one word that's in my David Bieber archives.
Well, you got
logo is the word authentic. So when you talk about having the holes and having the sweat stains and having the dirt and the cigarette aroma and the aroma,
there you go.
That essence is rare. You want that for the authenticity. One shirt like that can speak volumes about your experiences and trigger so many great memories because that's living proof, and and somebody else wants it as a historical memento. But when you have it, it's almost like a time capsule of your life in Clubland. Yeah.
Well, you talk about time capsules. Some of the people since I've been doing this with Dinky, I think about myself and going to the channel, and I think about how much business was done there. I mean, I know the Stompers showcase there. I think Fahrenheit showcase there. People that I work with, I managed Darryl for a couple of years, and the Muffin, came on as an MC. But
all the BCN.
But rather than go to some of these offers or have dinner and talk,
do it there.
It was a hang. It was a fun hang, and you got to have a good time, and get work done. I mean, it was just. I think about it, and I just. The people you ran into that I haven't got you on the phone. I've been trying to get a hold of you on the phone. Well, okay, here I am. What do you want?
Yeah. No, I'm with you there in terms of, and I'm still out, 4 or 5 times a week. I just was at the Cabot Theater last night. Yeah, I just went to see Roger McGuinn, one-man show, kind of words and music, and telling the story of his life with the Byrds and so many other great musical experiences that he had through the years. Writing with Bob Dylan for the soundtrack to Easy Rider, and for those who know the history of Roger McGuinn, it's just a feast for your eyes and ears. A wonderful night. But I'm out there, local music as well, and you kind of roll the dice. If you stay home, you know what's going to happen. Nothing. If you go out, maybe nothing will happen either, but at least you'll see a great performance, and you don't know who you're going to run into.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line. You've already talked about two of the acts that I worked with. I worked with Roger for 2 years, 3 years. Did an album together, wrote a song on an album called BB Class Road. It was on Farther Along album. But then also in the 80s, I had John Phillips. I helped reform the Mamas and Papas out of New York in 80, 81. And then we took them around, like I said, the Channel and Grossinger's and all these other places and casinos just to get their feet wet until we started in the big casinos. And then when we did that, they were getting some serious money back, and it was fun. And
well, that's wonderful that you were connected. Actually, I'm surprised you weren't in the Cabot Theater last night. You would have loved the show. The reference points and the humble beginnings as a teenager in Chicago, and just I don't want to say child prodigy, but he was certainly an adolescent prodigy. It's like with guitar and the 5-string and the 6-string, and
he was Judy Collins' backup musician.
Yeah, he was Judy's backup musician, Judy Collins.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about that lot, and you're talking about John Phillips and about a lot of the stuff, he really created the 60s in a lot of ways. I mean, come on. Flower in My Hair with Scott McKenzie, he wrote that. All the hits that he wrote just flowed the 60s hippie movement and stuff out. And it was just, and everyone that did them, from Beach Boys to many other people that did these songs, were just excelled. And John, unfortunately, and we were having a great old time, and then I got so upset with him drinking too much before the show and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of left up in Stowe, Vermont, where my wife drove a Citroen all the way up to up to Stowe, and she'd never driven anything before that much, not that far anyway, and picked me up, and I just had enough. But then after that, I'd doing the music circuses and did all the MOR acts that came through, from Sammy Davis to Hello Dolly to all Carol Channing, all that kind of stuff. But I'd already had 9 years of opera when I was a kid, so I knew how to do these book shows and stuff like that and what have you. So I wasn't behind the door on any of it. But at the same time, when we came in to do the channel, I didn't know there was 4 or 5 different kinds of metal. I had no idea. I thought it was just metal. Because of, but it all this Ponce metal. I mean, he saw it all on stage. Then he saw all the people I'd worked with, Eric Burden, all the friends from them days, and coming through and stuff. And it was like old home week, but at the same time, they were all together now. They weren't as bad as what we used to do in the early 80s. I mean, we were tough. It had continued from the 70s, let's put it that way, and stuff,
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned metal because, somebody who I occasionally run into as well, Metal Mike Colucci.
Oh, yeah.
And he wore his metal on his nickname. He was he embraced it and was so much affiliated with metal. Great guy. Somebody who educated me back in the BCN days, because he was part-timer, but he was also spinning at the channel, and now he's kind of on the road with world-class marquee names, performers, and I'll see him periodically at BCN reunions. I know that there's a lot of slice and dice subcategories and, death metal and on and on and on. But
it's amazing at that time period what kind of genres of music, because every kind came through. From you got your English style Billy Bragg, to, like you said, Roy Orbison, all the late 50s, early 60s acts, and stuff that came through. Jerry Lee Lewis on top of the old piano and having fun, and then all the performance art on a different level, and all the metal art on a different level, with come in with trash and stuff.
Well, it's funny we're talking about the Byrds. I mean, I think we had this Dinky and I had this conversation a few weeks ago, but. I mean, one of the best shows I ever saw there was Gene Clark with Mike Clark.
Oh God, yeah.
That sort of old Byrds folks and session guys. Sneaky Pete was there. I mean,
Sneaky was fantastic.
If I had a tape of that show, I would just leave it and just play it all the time.
Do you know who Sneaky Pete is there? The Pete Kleino. Do you know who he is?
Oh, yeah. I'm from the Flying Burrito Brothers. And, Sneaky
He's a steel player.
Kleino.
Yeah.
He's Gumby.
I know. He was just, people talk about their Desert Island discs and what they would take.
No, nothing to do with music. I'm talking of Gumby. He'd invented Gumby. Remember Gumby?
Oh, really?
Are you kidding me?
No, that's Sneaky Pete did Gumby.
Get out of here.
No, he did. He walked around. What he used to do is the Burritos would come to New York, like to play Fillmore East. But, they'd come in the middle of the night, get off at night. He'd get off the plane, get a cab to the city and walk around the city all night for ideas. And he'd come out and this, that, and the other. And next thing you know, he's got Gumby. He's the biggest, thing going out at the time. Gumby and that other guy, it was a character. But Sneaky would sit behind that pedal steel and make you cry. I mean, there's no two ways about what he used to do with the pedal steel. When he had me, I had all the Byrds, my Byrds, Gene Parsons, Clarence White, Skip Batten, and Roger, and then all the Burritos with Chris Hillman and Sneaky and all that. Even Rick Roberts had played and stuff like that. It was phenomenal. When they played the whiskey all together, I got them all, and the wives and girlfriends were fighting. It was wonderful stuff.
Because the show and the tour and the time that you're referencing, I came to Boston, towards the tail end of the Boston Tea Party Club era.
Yeah.
But at the original location on East Berkeley Street, which now has a plaque commemorating the location and the impact that the music created in that building. I don't know if you know of MMONE, Music Museum of New England.
Yeah.
Harry Sandler and Steve Nelson, have put plaques on famous locations.
Yeah, they really done a good job. Really done a good job.
And the show, one of the last shows they had there before they moved the Boston Tea Party to Lansdowne Street, which is now the location of House of Blues.
Yeah.
But I saw a show that was billed around the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers. And you're right. The Burrito Brothers opened. The Byrds did the headliner set, and then they all congregated on stage to perform together. And and Graham Parsons, you can't leave him out of the equation. And as I started to say, not only was that a terrific and memorable show at the old Tea Party, but if I had 25 albums of Desert Island Discs, the Gilded Palace of Sin would certainly be one of them. And that was the Burrito Brothers' debut album. Sneaky Pete was on it. And, of course, Graham, the great Graham story still to be told is Chuck White is in hot pursuit of that. And, he's keeping the history and the legacy of Graham Parsons alive. And I think he's in contact with Graham's daughter to work on various projects that will, educate people about the impact and the quality of what Graham did, not only with the Byrds, but, taking them in that Sweetheart of the Rodeo direction, the country direction.
Absolutely.
But also, the Burrito Brothers and working with Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones.
Oh, yeah.
So many reference points. I mean, it's so wonderful to talk to you guys, to share these moments, because we have so many in common that are distinct and unique, but they all connect the dots of the real world that we were living in and that we're living in today. I mean, I think of people that I saw at the channel that I've run into recently because of books that they've written and meet and greets and book readings that I've
Jim
been.
Sullivan,
Yeah, but people like John King from Gang of Four.
Yeah.
I just went to a couple of book readings of his. Maybe 4 or 5 months ago, Steve Wynn from the Dream Syndicate. He had a memoir that he was promoting and traveling around. Another group that I saw at the channel, and of course, one of the things that I brought to Arnold for the installation in their conference room was the Hip Hop Live the Channel album.
Yeah, that album's a good album that came out today that Iggy did.
Yeah, and it's the artwork is very unique in the sense that it's designed to look like a bootleg, with a white cover and a kind of stamped kind of black type and image a little bit out of focus and so forth. But it's a totally legitimate, wonderful album that I think captures Iggy in 88, something like that?
1988. It captured him real well. It's done real well in Europe, that album. It really, well, they like a lot of that kind of good stuff in Europe. They like, the metal bands like Metallica that used to play there at the channel, but now they're so big and they go to Germany, they'll pack 40,000 people. No ifs and buts. Yeah. It's how things have evolved and how society's come in certain ways and still there, but it's just coming out now, and those people are now, in their 60s and stuff like that and stuff. Well, I'm in an older crowd because of the stuff I've done earlier from Fleetwood and Birds and Steely and you name it on them levels. But 70s was my main thing, and I sort of retired from the channel days because I didn't want to go touring again. I got fed up with all the new politics going off, and then we're doing the channel. Oh, I just want to say this, though. Thank you for doing this art stuff with that lady. I was looking for Sean McNally to see what he had. I didn't have enough stuff that I could really sort of, present that would be suitable. And I know that your archives, because you did the most wonderful thing in town in the 80s is collect everything. everything that came in that door at BCN, you had one of at least, and you kept it, and you kept it, and you kept it because you were into it. And you're so into it that now you have an incredible amount of good stuff in the archives. And that's not just Channel. That's right. That's the Tea Party days, the stuff all from all different people and stuff that comes along. And we know you got the biggest one, and you should, because you're still displaying it in these nice places. The Verve Hotel there is just beautifully done for. I mean, that is a rock and roll hotel, no ifs, no buts, without craziness. It's done well. And with you doing the decor in the front and stuff is and all the archives, it's like, yeah. And then now you're doing a bit at the Cabot, and now I hear that you were talking about doing something for Ernie Bach there in the Bach Centre. And
well, that's absolutely true. I mean, I appreciate your feedback and your observations, and also your praise. And I have 10,000 square feet. Probably the estimate is 2 million artifacts.
That's overkill.
Wow.
You're a maniac. I love it.
Well,
I love it.
But I don't want these things just sitting on shelves.
No.
I want it to be externalized. I want to share it with people.
Yeah.
I want to explain the backstory of all the things that exist now, what the history is, where they came from. You referenced Fleetwood Mac, and you referenced Metallica, who you worked with maybe in the infancy, and you watched them climb the ladder towards success, and you were part of their endeavors and their success. And it has to give you a sense of satisfaction, maybe even a twinge of thrill, to know that you were part of the team, that you were involved in making them become greater than they were when they started out. And that's how I feel about these artifacts, whether it's putting them in the Verb and sharing them with the guests, the extra layer of the hotel experience.
Yeah.
I'm working, at the Bach Family Center, which includes the Schubert Theater and the Wang, working with Joe Spalding and working with Casey Sword, creating an umbrella of folk Americana and roots music and a Hall of Fame there. And
I just want to mention one person that you already mentioned, Chuck White. I really like what Chuck did in the place when he painted Necco Place and all that area and stuff. He did a real good job for the time period, and it needed that kind of thing. And Tony was instrumental of getting Chuck to be able to do that in there and let him go to town and do what he wanted to do in there. And it was definitely a really nice artwork that he did. And I wish there was photos that we could use, and he would actually use in that building there. We're the only people. We're still looking at for a couple of people. One gentleman who was a photographer. I mean, we lost John Boy Franklin, who was really the channel photographer. He just did so much photos. But have
you reached out to Lucy, his wife and widow, about what's happening with the photos that he took and the negatives? And
no, I've been dealing with Sean McNally and stuff, and then Sean's, because I've not been well enough to be able to go to any of these places that like the Paradise when they had that benefit for him. With the dialysis I'm on now, it just knocks the hoots out of me. So by 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I'm in bed because it's just at the point where I've got to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning just to get ready for the dialysis starting at 7. So my life's on a machine most of the week. And so today is my day off, and now I'm just about to say thank you for everything because we're going to call it and let you continue with what you're doing because you're doing such a damn good job with these archives of yours. And you should be proud. 2 million. I'm like, whoa, come on, that's a lot of stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, I had been storing things, well, probably all my life. But, the beauty of working initially starting at WBCN in 1968, 1978, I'm sorry, BCN started in 1968. I started there in 78. And I was there till 1994, and then worked with Stephen Mindich at the Boston Phoenix.
Boston Phoenix, yeah.
And the radio station WFNX got sold in 2012, and Stephen abruptly closed down the Phoenix in 2013. But I spent about 8 months working with him to transfer the archives of all the companies,
Excellent.
the Boston Phoenix, WFNX, Stuff Magazine, and so forth, to Northeastern, where they're preserving it, all the contents and the back issues and the reels of tape. But Steve Mindich did a great favor to me because he introduced me to Steve Samuels, who had just acquired in 2014 the old Howard Johnson's at 1271 Boylston Street, and that became the Verb Hotel. Yeah. And at that point, I didn't have the space at the Norwood Space Center. I was largely drawing from my personal favorites of 0.1% that I kept at home. but now I'm rolling in my own sandbox. I'm playing, and I love people like you who appreciate what I saved, and that I'm able to put it out there in the world and preserve and celebrate what we went through. That I can show. 8.5 by 11 flyer from the channel of the Ramones playing there, and tell the backstory of being backstage with Joey, with Janice Timonis, and hanging out, and Janice admonishing Joey that you can't wear the same socks for 2 weeks. You got to change those socks. Number one, do your fans a favor. The aroma is not as fragrant as you think it should be, and B, you got to let your feet breathe. So she was wagging her finger in Joey's face, and he was listening like a child being told what to do, and she had his best interests in mind. But there were so many great moments like that. Just seeing the Charlie Watts Orchestra. A little side gig from when the Stones weren't touring, and Charlie being this great jazz aficionado, this great jazz player. Just things that were. One of my most wonderful and kind of sad shows at the channel there was a kind of aggregation of people who had left Motown, but were still strongly affiliated with Motown, and included, it was almost like a Dick Clark Caravan of Stars, or one of these, rock and roll review shows. But the Motown one featured Mary Wells and Martha Reeves from Martha and the Vandellas, and
I remember that.
David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks from the Temptations. Yeah, and it was. I was elated to see them, much like Roy Orbison, music that I grew up with, that never really went away, and had its rebound effect of coming back, 15, 20 years after its prime, to be able to see those shows. But on the David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks were kind of famous, especially Ruffin, for throwing the mic in the air and pivoting around, doing a couple 360s and catching the mic. Well, I think 2 out of 3 times it was an early version of the mic drop. It wasn't part of the act,
He was got excited. He was on a stage that was not too tall. The audience could hit his feet if he wanted to with the hands, and it's just getting to an audience that really that's all they wanted to do, is hear this song and swoon and cry and kiss and do the whole number, and be really emotional, put together. And that's what that lot did. I did it in the 60s. That was my emotion stuff, and I used to dance on Register to Go to that old stuff, years ago in England on the TV. It's fun. It's fun, and it was what we grew up with, all of us.
But the great thing about it all is we got to see it firsthand.
And that's exactly what Peter said.
All of us here.
Yeah.
And then I look at what you're doing, David. You're taking that thing that we grew up with and were part of in our own ways, and you're actually making that live for younger people. I mean, I have nieces, nephews, who listen to these stories and they can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
It's amazing sometimes, and he put together living history for people who just weren't old enough to really be there.
So, David, I want to thank you again for being here on 2 Pints in a Corner with Peter Limbaugh and myself. And Tony Raine does wish he was here because he got some good questions, I'm sure, about things and stuff, because he remembers a lot more than what Peter and I remember. And,
you don't sell yourself short. You've got more brain cells than most people walking the planet.
Maybe.
But it's really wonderful speaking to you, and I appreciate the positive feedback, and I'm really sometimes very much touched that a generation or two behind us really wants to know the backstory about what happened.
Totally. I'm getting more asking questions from people around 25, 26, 27, in their early 30s. They're asking, and they're playing that music. They're playing music that you would not think that would really like, but they like that music. There's certain parts of the music they like, and they listen and sing every damn note in that stuff. I'm saying, where do you get that? Well, we get it on the radio. We can listen to all these songs and have fun listening to it, and the people that did it, what have you, And
to me, it is so heartening, especially at the Verb Hotel, which they're probably a staff of 40 plus people who work there. Everyone from valet to front desk to general manager, and their age range is probably mid-20s to late 30s. And when I'm doing installations there, they are human sponges. I love it. They're absorbing the backstory. They want to know what happened. They're in a very pleasant way. They're jealous or envious of the shows that many of which would be the channel shows, of seeing Joan Jett or Midnight Oil or the Dead Boys or Bo Diddley. So many people. Music and they want to know what it was like. They're not just looking at the artifact and saying, okay, well, that's a piece
and they're getting the story firsthand.
Yeah.
They're not reading a book. They're hearing it, the real crap that really went on.
That's the deal.
Well, the PG version of what
you got that right.
We have to be PG because there's so many other that was like, forget about it. So we're PGs.
Right.
All right. And after being a PG, then we'll let you go and get your rest of your day done and what have you. And we will call it 2 Pints in the Corner here with Davey Bieber signing out.